8 a.m. Happy Monday to everybody. Hope you all had a great weekend. I was talking to somebody last week, a couple weeks ago, who was saying that in their opinion, the entire industry takes off from Thanksgiving till when the college football bowl series is over, which is tonight. So, I was thinking yesterday how, although I don't think that's true for our team, I think we were pretty active in rolling throughout the last month and a half. I do think that on some level this past week was a little bit of a warm-up, and in a lot of ways today is really, it's a good day to launch into the new year. So consider anything you did in the last week a little bit of you got an advance, you got a head start on the rest of the industry, and today is really when everybody's back to work. So I think starting off on the right foot looks like starting with this call today, hopefully. So I posted on the Facebook group a picture from out the Alice in Wonderland story, and some of you have seen it already. If not, jump on there and look at this picture. But that's kind of what we're going to talk about this morning. This will be about a 10 or 15 minute call. The picture is from the book, and it says, I'll just read it. It says, "One day Alice came to a fork in the road and saw a Cheshire cat in a tree. 'Which road do I take?' she asked. 'Where do you want to go?' was his response. 'I don't know,' Alice answered. 'Then,' said the cat, 'it doesn't matter.'" Think about that for a second. Where do I want to go? Where do you want to go? I don't know. Well, then it really doesn't matter what path you take. And this phrase or this quote has been haunting me for probably the past 2 or 3 weeks. And I think it applies to life. It applies to this story, obviously. I think it really applies to real estate in that, if you don't really know where you want to go or what you want to accomplish, then the actions you take and what you do and where you go, none of that really matters. You really have to know where you want to go and what you want to accomplish. That's like the very beginning. I think back to when I was in high school, my friends and I would always meet at my house before we went out and did something, or we never really had any idea what we were going to do for the night. We were just going to kind of figure it out. And my dad would always ask before we left, he said, "Where are you guys going?" And we would always say, "We don't know." And he would always respond, every single time he'd respond, "Well, how are you going to know when you get there?" And it was a joke, and it was funny, and we laughed. But when you think about it today, it makes a ton of sense. It's like if you really don't know where you're going, one, you're not going to know how to get there, but two, you don't even know when you get there. Because if you don't have really clear goals and really clear plans for where you're going, then you might pass it and have no idea, or you might come nowhere near it because you haven't actually set up a plan to get there. So when I was thinking the last couple of days about what would be best for us today as we launch into this new year, it would be a couple of points that are going to help us get really clear on what we want to accomplish and then how we're going to get there. And as I was thinking about some of the conversations I had this past week with some of you all, what became really clear is that we're very on purpose and very clear about where we want to go this year. We're not very clear or very on purpose about where we want to go this week or this month. And it's really easy to focus on the big picture and think about, I want to sell 30 houses this year. And very easy to avoid what you want to do this week, or today even. So I just came up with a couple of quick points that I think could help guide us in this conversation this week. The first one is determine where you want to go or what you want to accomplish. You have to get very specific on what you intend to accomplish. And in this industry, it's a little bit easier to put numbers to that. Like I want to close 20 houses this year, 30 houses this year. Get really specific on the year, start there, and then just start chunking it down. And so if you want to close 24 houses this year, well, that's 2 a month, and it's already January 8th, and anything you put under contract today isn't going to close till February, so you're probably already behind. And so continue chunking it down to this week. And so it's easy to focus on the big picture, but not really specific on our tasks for right away. So the first one, determine where you want to go. I would encourage you to make it based on production or volume, not necessarily on conversations or activities, because we're going to get into that with our production. The second one, come up with 3 pillars of business you're going to focus on this year. And so that can be things like your sphere, open houses, cold calls, farming, internet leads, past clients. There's a ton of different ways or different places that we can pull business out of to close, but get really specific on the 3 that you're going to focus on most. And unless you moved to town last week, one of those should be your sphere. And so even if your sphere is 5 people or 10 people, chances are it's a lot bigger than you think it is. You just need to get really on purpose about defining who your sphere is and getting them into the CRM. But your sphere should definitely be one of those. And then sometimes that just means you need to grow your sphere and get better at it. But and then the third one, so number 1 was determine where you want to go. Number 2 is come up with 3 pillars that you're going to focus on. And then number 3 is decide one or two ways that you can pursue each of those pillars today. And so take all three of them, take the three you want to focus on, and then just jot down a couple things that today or this week that you can focus on. It doesn't have to mean you're going to put a house under contract from one of those pillars. It would be great if you did, but it doesn't have to be that extreme. It can be, I mean, since we're talking about your sphere, let's say your goal is that you want to close 10 transactions through your sphere this year. Today you can take the "Can I bring you coffee" script that I talked about a couple weeks ago. Apply that 5 times. The script was something along the lines of reaching out to your top 10, 15, 20, whatever, members of your sphere and saying, hey, my team encouraged me to think about who my top core advocates are, the ones that I can really trust are going to send me referrals when they know someone that's thinking about buying or selling real estate. And your name came up, and I'd love to bring you coffee just to say thanks and just to affirm that I appreciate you and your partnership. Can I bring you coffee at work today? What can I get you? Something like that. You can go to meetup.com, find 1 or 2 new groups that you want to check out. It could be a sports league. It could be an interest group. It could be there's thousands or hundreds of thousands of groups on meetup.com that you can just start building your sphere through. Make a goal this week to get face-to-face with one member of your sphere every day. I mean, these goals for the pillars don't have to be radical. They can just be very small but very specific. And then refer back to that video a couple weeks ago about getting out of the office. All the things you can do with your sphere, with building relationships with core advocates when you get out of the office. Or another example, if one of your pillars is open houses, this year you might want to hold 100 open houses, which is great, but how do you apply that today or this week? You can reach out to several agents with listings that you'd like to hold open and ask if they would let you. We have a great script for that and a great email that we typically use. Sometimes I'll just chunk 30 minutes or so in a week just to find open houses for people. That's something that I think, I was talking to a couple about it last week, that I think that would be a good use for me in the next couple of weeks, is helping find open houses for people to hold open. You could follow up on all the open house leads that you've had from the last 6 months, just checking in with them. You can hold an evening impromptu open house. We've talked some about how a 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. open house can be very profitable and very busy lots of times. And you don't get quite the same marketing push that you would get if you give Brittany your open house 2 or 3 days ahead of time. But it doesn't hurt to hold a quick impromptu open house that people will still stop by. You can still knock a couple neighbors' doors, etc. And so to summarize, I'd say the 3 steps that you could focus on today is take a little bit of time and figure out exactly where you want to go this year, what you want to accomplish. Get a little more specific on what the 3 pillars that you're going to focus on will be for this year. And then take a couple minutes and just jot down a couple of ways that you can apply each of those today. And those of you who have done this with me before have started to figure out that we really just created a 135 for your year, and you were just kind of tricked into it. So I appreciate you all. I hope that's helpful, and I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. And don't forget to jump on the Facebook group and check out a picture of that Alice in Wonderland script. So have a great day. See you guys tomorrow.